Brothers, I need you to drop whatever you're doing and listen closely, because the ground beneath your feet is shifting faster than you can imagine. We are witnessing the most aggressive, stealthy, and calculated assault on our Second Amendment rights in modern history. Let me hit you with a cold, hard fact that the mainstream media absolutely refuses to talk about. Over 90% of the gun bans currently being proposed and pushed through legislatures across this country are aiming straight at firearms that account for less than 3% of total crimes. Let that sink in. Less than 3%. They stand behind podiums, they look into the cameras, and they loudly preach about reducing violent crime and making streets safer. But that's a smokescreen, brothers. What they are actually targeting isn't the criminal element. They are targeting you. They are targeting your sacred right to self-defense, your ability to protect your family, and the legal firearms currently sitting in your gun safe or your nightstand. This isn't a loud overnight confiscation. It's a stealth disarmament campaign, disguised under the heavy, self-righteous banner of public safety. Politicians backed by deep-pocketed interest groups are using the oldest trick in the political playbook, salami-slicing tactics. They know that a flat-out ban on all firearms would spark a constitutional crisis and massive pushback. So instead, they slowly, methodically redefine what constitutes a dangerous weapon. They prey on the ignorance and the emotional reactions of people who know absolutely nothing about firearms, turning the most basic, functional features of a gun into terrifying weapons of war characteristics. The legal window is slamming shut. What you see on the dealer shelves today could completely disappear, become highly restricted, or turn you into a felon overnight in just a matter of months. Let's break down the countdown of exactly what they are coming for, starting from the perimeter and moving right into your home. Number 10. Standard capacity AR-15 magazines. Before we even get to the rifles, we have to talk about the beating heart of the firearm, the magazine. Currently, standard capacity magazines holding 30 rounds are already banned in over 10 states, and the legislative wave is only gaining momentum. Here is the legal trap they are setting. They use the term high-capacity magazine to incite fear. But let's get the facts straight. A 30-round magazine is not an aftermarket accessory. It is not an extended add-on. It is the original standard configuration that manufacturers designed these rifles around from the very inception of the platform. When legislation targets these so-called high-capacity magazines, they are actually criminalizing the normal, everyday magazines that have existed for decades. The legislative push is aggressively trying to limit capacity to 10 rounds or less. Why? Because it fundamentally changes how these firearms operate under stress. A 30-round magazine doesn't inherently make the gun more dangerous, but it is low-hanging fruit for politicians because a curved 30-round mag looks scary to a lawmaker sitting in an air-conditioned office. If you own an AR pattern rifle, stocking up on these standard magazines right now is basic survival logic. While they are still available, prices are stable around $15 to $20. But the second a ban drops in your state, they vanish. In restricted states, they command triple that amount on the legal secondary market, if you can even find grandfathered ones. Quality metal magazines or polymer versions from top-tier manufacturers are practically indestructible and will last generations. Stock up now, because once the gavel falls, the door closes permanently. Number 9. The Ruger Mini 14. Now, let's talk about a gun that proves this isn't about function. It's entirely about cosmetics. The Ruger Mini 14. This rifle fires the exact same 5.56 NATO round as an AR-15. It holds the exact same capacity. It utilizes a detachable magazine. Yet for years, the Mini 14 somehow magically escaped the massive ban lists that heavily targeted modern sporting rifles. Why? Because it features a traditional classic wooden stock. It looks like a hunting rifle. It looks like something your grandfather would take into the woods. Designed in the 1970s as a civilian derivative of the military M14, it is incredibly reliable, boasting a gas system that will keep cycling in mud and grit that would choke other rifles. Because it didn't trigger the panic response associated with all black tactical-looking rifles, it got a free pass. But brothers, the opposition has gotten smarter. The newest proposed bills are using incredibly insidious dragnet language. Any semi-automatic rifle with a detachable magazine. Period. End of sentence. The Mini 14's wooden stock camouflage is expiring. At around $1,000, it's a brilliant, low-profile defensive tool. But that advantage won't last forever as the legal language becomes a comprehensive net designed to catch everything. Number 8. Semi-automatic shotguns with detachable magazines. Shotguns have traditionally been the safest harbor in the firearms world. They've avoided almost all major ban proposals. But the game has changed, and semi-automatic models feeding from detachable magazines, like the Fostech Origin 12, are now dead center in the legislative crosshairs. These aren't your grandpa's double-barrel bird guns. These are engineered for elite competitive shooting and devastating home defense, holding 10 to 15 rounds of 12-gauge shells. The courtroom concern here focuses on the combination of semi-automatic operation and the detachable magazine, which allows for blisteringly fast reloading. Several states are already drafting restrictions, specifically creating a new, isolated legal category just to ban these shotguns. Running anywhere from $700 to $1,500, these guns use AR pattern controls, making them incredibly intuitive for anyone trained on a modern sporting rifle. The semi-auto action eats up the heavy 12-gauge recoil, allowing you to fire as fast as you can pull the trigger. And that exact capability, your ability to lay down effective defensive fire, is exactly why politicians are terrified of them. If a mag-fed semi-auto shotgun is on your list, the time to pull the trigger is now, before they classify them as a completely different banned breed of weapon. Number 7. AR-10 pattern rifles. You thought they were only after the 5.56? Think again. The AR-10 fires a significantly larger round than the AR-15, typically chambered in the hard-hitting .308 Winchester or the surgically precise 6.5 Creedmoor. These rifles look almost identical to the AR-15, but are built on a beefier, larger frame to handle the increased pressure of battle rifle cartridges. Historically, ban proposals hyper-focused on the AR-15 by name, but the new wave of legislation is catching up, casting a wide net to include absolutely all AR pattern rifles, regardless of what caliber they spit out. The AR-10 gives you superior effective range and knockdown power, making it a staple for long-range shooters and hunters across America. Quality rigs from Palmetto State Armory or Aero Precision will run you between $900 and $2,000. They usually feed from 20-round magazines. The .308 has been feeding American families since the 1950s. The AR-10 simply puts that classic, respected hunting cartridge into a highly ergonomic modern platform. But the politicians don't care about the ballistic truth. They care about the silhouette. They care about the appearance. And because it looks tactical, it is being forcefully grouped into comprehensive assault weapon bans. Number 6. Pistol Caliber Carbines, PCCs. This category highlights the glaring hypocrisy of lawmakers. Pistol caliber carbines, like the wildly popular CZ Scorpion or the Ruger PC carbine, fire standard handgun ammunition, like 9mm, from a rifle-length platform. They are incredibly popular for home defense and training because they are affordable to shoot and produce almost zero recoil, making them perfect for new shooters or protecting your family in tight hallways. But here is the legal trap. Because these guns look like rifles, feature rifle-style controls, and often accept standard capacity pistol magazines, they are heavily targeted. Think about the sheer lack of logic here. They are firing relatively weak handgun ammunition, gaining only a modest velocity bump from the longer barrel. Yet, recent legislative proposals specifically mention PCCs by name as prime targets for restriction. Why? Because they share magazine compatibility with your everyday carry handgun. The Ruger PC carbine is brilliantly designed to accept Glock magazines with a simple magwell swap. Lawmakers despise this cross-compatibility. They want to cut off your logistical supply lines. They see a 30-round 9mm stick magazine and immediately draft legislation, completely ignoring the fact that the platform itself is one of the safest and easiest to control defensive tools on the market. Number 5. AK pattern rifles. You knew this was coming. The AK-47 pattern is probably the most recognized firearm silhouette on the planet, and in the eyes of anti-gun politicians, it is the ultimate boogeyman. American-made and imported variants chambered in 7.62 by 39 are incredibly popular among American gun owners because of a reliability that borders on mythical. These rifles will function when buried in mud, frozen solid, or completely neglected, conditions that would choke out almost any other platform. But that 70-year-old history of rugged reliability doesn't protect them from the gavel. In fact, AK pattern rifles are almost always specifically mentioned by name in every single assault weapon ban proposal across the country. Quality American-made examples from companies like Palmetto State Armory run between $700 and $1,200. The 30-round steel magazines are practically indestructible and cheap, around $15. But the state doesn't care that the design is from the 1940s. They are targeting the AK out of historical spite and visual fear. The broad dragnet of semi-automatic rifles with detachable magazines easily captures the AK. If you want one, get it now, because the political hatred for this specific platform means it will always be first on the chopping block. Number 4. Threaded barrel handguns. This right here is where the law crosses, from restrictive to purely vindictive. A threaded barrel on a handgun is becoming a massive legislative target. Now, practically speaking, a threaded barrel allows you to attach a suppressor for critical hearing protection, or a compensator to manage recoil. It is a safety feature. It is a practical, functional enhancement. But in the twisted political environment we operate in, threaded barrels are legally classified as evil features. Several states have already passed laws that specifically ban threaded barrels on semi-automatic handguns, forcing dealers to permanently pin and weld them, or simply making the gun illegal to sell. Almost every major manufacturer, Glock, Sig Sauer, Smith & Wesson, offers threaded options for around a $50 to $100 premium. The threads cut into the steel do not make the bullet fly faster. They do not make the gun more lethal, but they are associated with suppressors, which carry a ridiculous Hollywood stigma of being assassin tools. If you buy a pistol with a factory threaded barrel